What's up, horror fans? Good to see you again. We're back for another video. This week, Dad's going to be sharing some stuff with you. It's good to have him back. He's got some good horror stuff to share, some Blu-rays, various things. So take it away, Dad.
Good evening. And it's too late to worry about whether you've left the gas on now. Now, today we'll be looking at a box set that Universal released in 2013, which of course some of you may be familiar with. It's the Universal Monsters Essential Collection, which features 8 of the Universal cycle, 8 of the great monster pictures from the early 30s. And then what you've got here is it starts off with Dracula from 1931, of course, Frankenstein, also from 31, The Mummy, 1932. Of course, The Invisible Man, which is the great original one, Claude Rains' first part that put him on the map, even though it was just his voice, because you didn't see him. And then, I gotta get the glasses, The Bride of Frankenstein, which is as good as the first one. The Wolfman, of course, featuring Lon Chaney's son. Phantom of the Opera, which is not the original, but it's the first remake, which was done in, I can't remember, the one with Claude Rains. And of course, the great classic from 1954, The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
And of course, they're fantastic movies, Dad. If I can just ask, did you see any of those in the theatre?
Yes, I saw a re-release in 3D of The Creature from the Black Lagoon in the 80s with the old 3D cellophane glasses, where you had the red and the red and the red and the blue lens. But no, was it the red and the green lens? Oh, like an aged stem, can't remember. This rotting peeled egg. But it wasn't very good because the glasses were such poor quality. So that was the only one I actually saw in the cinema. Yeah. So of course there's an interesting story actually to do with my mother, who saw the original Mummy in 1932 in the cinema when she was 17.
Wow.
And I always remember her telling me, she said she hardly slept for a week. It just scared the shit out of her, you know.
Wow.
Because old Boris, and just in case you haven't seen it, there's only a single scene in the film where you see Karloff as the Mummy, and it puts the H back in horror, even now, all these years later, even though it was made in 1932. And of course, there's been a swag of Mummy films since then, but that's, if you're interested in the Mummy, that's the one you've got to see. But,
and of course, the Universal monsters, Dad, they're iconic.
Yeah.
If you ask anybody that's a classic horror fan what they would choose to go to,
that's right.
They would always pick Universal monsters. They're absolutely iconic.
Yes, they are iconic, and with some of the great breakthroughs in makeup, particularly Jack Pierce's makeup for Karloff and Frankenstein, and then in the follow-up, The Bride of Frankenstein in 35, and Universal were prescient enough to copyright that makeup, so it couldn't be used by no other film company could rip it off and use it in any other production for any other company.
No.
So,
and just for the fans, Dad, what are the special features like on that? Is there a lot of special features?
Yes,
involved?
there are a series of special features on there which you can discover for yourselves. But my eyes are so inadequate at this late date. I'm nearly 68 that I can't read them all. But this box set that was released here, it is still available on Amazon, and all 8 films. And it's worth getting just for to get the Mummy, and of course The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And the other thing is the restorations and the picture quality are very, very good.
Top notch.
Yeah, top notch.
And there has actually been a re-release.
Yes, it's been re-released since then. Still available on Amazon.
All right. Cool.
So you check those out, those 8 films, and of course with Creature, there've been things afoot for the last 20 years to do a remake, but a number of movie companies had passed on it and in various stages of development hell, and it ended up in a situation where they were just thinking about doing it, and of course Universal were going to remake all those films in a series called The Dark Universe.
That's right.
Yeah. But Tom Cruise came along and did the remake of The Mummy, and
it was terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't the success they were hoping for, and
Yeah.
it was really just. It ended up being another vehicle for Tom Cruise.
And Johnny Depp was actually going to do The Invisible Man. See, I think that would have been the perfect person to play that role.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I remember The Dark Universe. Yes. Yeah, it just didn't work out.
With the with Tom Cruise doing the thing with the mummy and then changing the sex, having the mummy as a woman was just, in my opinion, ridiculous. And it ended up, Cruise took it over, and it ended up being a vehicle for him. And they chucked in Russell Crowe. Yeah, as a comedy relief, Jekyll and Hyde, and the whole thing was unfortunately it was a disaster. So after that, Universal, they were going to do The Invisible Man next, but they pulled the plug on it. Thanks, Tom. And it's not like you need the money, you swine. Yeah,
but they did. But they did do The Invisible Man with I can't think of her name now.
Mr. Brownout.
Yeah, I can't think of that. Elizabeth. No, it wasn't Elizabeth Shue. It was someone else. It was the girl that was in. I forget.
So we can edit that. You can edit it together at home. Yes. Yeah. So that's that. Anyway, that's that box set, and the picture quality is excellent. All of them, very good, state of the art restorations.
Definitely.
Very
Having
good.
seen them myself.
Yes.
What do you got next?
Next one. Everyone talks about Phantom of the Opera, and everyone knows it. It's an icon of civilization.
Absolute and classic.
Especially since Lloyd Webber's musical production of it. It's the one that's constantly revived over and over again. Oh, God, talk about horror. But the only one in my view that's worth seeing is the 1925 silent original with Lon Chaney. This is the DVD. There's also an edition of this available on Blu-ray. And there's actually two versions, and there's the 1929 restored version and the 1925 original. With they have different soundtracks, and even though they're in glorious black and white, the restoration's been very good, and they various scenes they're tinted. And I think the idea behind that is to get people who say things like, "Oh, I won't watch anything unless it's black and white. There's no colour." That means you're going to miss out on the first 36 years of motion picture history, right? Because there was no colour from 1900 until 1936.
But such an iconic look.
Yeah.
Such an incredible look, Lon Chaney.
Chaney's makeup.
As the Phantom of the Opera.
Fantastic.
It looks like nothing else.
Yeah. And this is also available. It's been released on Blu-ray. There's a number of other editions, but this is one of the better ones. Fortunately, the original print survived into this era. So if you're talking Phantom of the Opera, this is the one. Chaney in 25. And if you're worried about watching silent film, well, my advice is to grow a brain and have a look. Because it's that much easier to watch, because you don't have to worry about cockheads talking.
And there's quite a few special features on there as well.
Yeah, there is.
Can you just quickly go through those?
Yes, the one that was restored in 29 features a new stereo score by Carl Davis of the original 1930 soundtrack. And then that's edited to fit the picture. There's an excellent audio commentary by the film historian Scott McQueen. And 1925 and the 1930 re-released theatrical trailers. There's also a stills gallery and, believe it or not, deleted and missing scenes. And also on disc 2, it features the 1925 original with the original score and an interview with Carla Lamel, who was Carla Lamel's video. And there's an extract from the Faust opera that it was based on. And some bonus audio features, and an interview with the surviving cinematographer. This was recorded while he was still alive, Charles Van Enger. So this is a great box set. You get both versions of the film. The picture quality is excellent, and with a nice tinting and everything. But if you don't like it, you can always go over to the TV and get the colour control and fade it down to black and white, because you don't need the colour unless you're watching the snooker, because then it makes sense then. Because you can
So let's just say that if you've never seen Phantom of the Opera, you're really fucking missing out.
This is the one,
So that's the one to get.
That's the one to get. It's now available on Blu-ray. Phantom of the Opera. So
Awesome.
1925, and you haven't seen Lon Chaney, the original, not his son, but Uncle Lon. This is your guy. So next, we're going to move on to a couple of Hammer releases. Everyone knows the Hammer cycle. From it started in the late 50s with two icons of that era, of course, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. They had a tremendous success with Dracula in '58.
Yeah, of course, it's a British company.
A British company, yeah, and that followed on from a company that Terence Fisher, the director of most of the Hammer pictures, had started in the early '50s. In '51 and '52, he'd done a number of black and white films, B ones, but quite good films. So the Hammer thing was where they had such a success with Dracula that they went on and did a series of them right into the '70s. Of course, there was Dracula, the first one with Lee of Cushing, and then there was a whole series of sequels, dozens of them, like Scars of Dracula, the Satanic Rites of Dracula, and Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, and Dracula AD 1972, and Dracula calls out to his dog, get thee behind me, Satan.
And of course, Dad, there's been that amazing box set released as well.
That's right. So I've got a couple of British imports here today that have been around since 2012. The first one is the first Frankenstein one that Hammer did from 1958, and this is of course the Curse of Frankenstein. This is the one with Cushing and Lee. Now on this particular box set, there's two versions of the film. You've got the DVD and the Blu-ray as well, and there's a whole load of tremendous special features. Picture quality is very good. It's fully restored, and the eyeball scene has been fully restored and left in there. So it's completely uncut from 1958.
Awesome.
So you still get the eyeball, woman. It's nice.
And of course, if anybody doesn't know who Peter Cushing is, of course you'd know him from Star Wars.
Yeah. Of course, Star Wars introduced Peter Cushing to a whole new audience when he played the Grand Moff Tarkin in the first film. That was Peter Cushing. So there was Peter Cushing, and then Christopher Lee was introduced to the whole new generation at the beginning of this century through his appearance in the Lord of the Rings films. He was an old man. But there you go. And they worked very successfully together in this series of films. They had a lot in common, similar sense of humour. They liked the old Warner Brothers cartoons. They were big fans of Tweety and Sylvester. Oh my God, we must be related. So yeah, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. So this box set was available, it's been available since 2012. So on the Blu-ray here, you get the main feature, which is in the original format.
And is that Icon, is it, Dad, the release? Who released that? Is that Icon or Lionsgate?
It's Lionsgate. It's the Lionsgate one, which is Icon Home. Yes, Icon Home Cinema.
Just to let the fans know.
Yeah, Icon Home Cinema. Whole lot of features on here. So you get actually two formats of the film. You get the first one, which is original 4x3 137 format, and then there's a blow up that they did in 1.66, which they did for later TV, so it would fit on your screen. Then there's a new audio commentary, similar thing on the DVD, and then there's a few extra features on the second DVD. So it's actually a 3-disc set. You get the Blu-ray. With the film on Blu-ray, you get the second disc. It's got the film on DVD, and then the third disc has other features as well.
Well worth getting, Dad. What would it retail for?
Oh, it was about $20. Yeah, these I've got from the UK. So they're Region 2, and they'll play back here.
So you order them on Amazon? Is that Amazon?
Yeah,
or?
It's a PAL system, so they'll play back.
So if you want to get any of these guys, it's Amazon.
Yeah, still available on Amazon. So that's that 3-disc set.
Awesome.
Excellent value for money.
Awesome.
So that was in '58, and Peter Cushing. He had already been a well-known, well-established television star, because a couple of years before in '56 he'd done a terrific television version of George Orwell's 1984 when he was playing Winston Smith, the lead character, and he was still in the limelight from that. The guy basically never been out of work. So that was Frankenstein. That started the whole series, the whole Hammer series, and then. Couple of years later we come to The Mummy. this is the only decent remake of Karloff's original, which of course was 1932. This is the colour one from 1959. Again, Peter Cushing playing the, your nominal hero, and of course Christopher Lee is the mummy. And it's quite a good film. One of the best of the Hammer series, which was just from that period at the end of the 60s.
Yeah, I never knew Christopher Lee played the mummy. That's cool to know.
Yeah, it's very good. And then again, similar features. The original aspect ratio, the 1.66 and the 1.37. New commentary. A similar thing on the DVD disc. And then there's a whole series of other features on this one. And there's some interesting things on here. I'm just trying to think. Oh, it's not happening. Oh, I've got the aged stem. There's a where is it? I'm trying to see stuff. There's a movie on here from 1952, one of Terence Fisher's very early ones called Stolen Face. Oh, and just going back quickly to the Curse of Frankenstein, this one we had here, there's one of Terence Fisher's earlier films called The Four-Sided Triangle. And bugger me, I just watched this a couple of days ago, and it instantly reminded me of that old B film that Keanu Reeves did a few years ago called Replicas. It's practically the same story, but this one was from 1952. So there you go. So that's there's the Curse of Frankenstein and the remake of the Mummy. So both excellent from Icon. That's all available on Amazon. Of course, now we come to the Ingrid Pitt. Oh my God, who doesn't know Ingrid Pitt?
We've got an absolute classic coming up here, guys.
Yeah, who doesn't know Ingrid Pitt? And of course, she's still well known when they re-released Where Eagles Dare. That was a 1968 World War II action bash-up with Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood, which was a huge success in the cinemas because at the time in 1968, Clint Eastwood was the biggest movie star in the world. But this one, we're going back to 1970, and it's The Vampire Lovers. And look at this. If you dare, taste the deadly passion of the blood nips. And it actually says here, caution, not for the mentally immature. Like me. 68 going on 12. And unbelievable. Look at this artwork. It's just unbelievable.
The artwork is absolutely awesome.
Like the mad vampire attacking this poor naked guy. Looks like he's going to rip his knob off. It's nice. But there's actually nothing like that in the film. That's a blow up from the original poster.
It's an incredible artwork.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? So yeah, it's one of the few that featured lesbian vampire.
Now, who released that? Is that Universal?
Oh, this isn't. No, this is a much later Hammer production from 1970, and it was released in the US. It was a co-production with American International Pictures.
No, I just mean the label. Like who released it?
The label is on Shout Factory.
Okay,
this is one of the Shout Factory ones. They've done a whole lot of very interesting re-releases.
They have,
and of course, the picture quality is very good because it's just 1970, much more recent. And it's a great film to see. I mean, Hammer at their best, like this and the Mummy.
You just ordered that online from Shout Factory?
Just got it from Amazon.
Any special features that on there?
Yeah, there's a making of special called Resurrecting the Vampire Lovers. A reading of Camilla, that was the short story that the screenplay and the film is based on. It's actually read by Ingrid Pitt, and there's a commentary by Roy Ward Baker, who was still alive at the time that this was produced. Awesome. Theatrical trailer and a radio spot. So yeah, if you want to see lesbian vampires, this is the first one they ever did. The Vampire Lovers, Ingrid Pitt, 1970.
I've actually never seen it, so I'm going to have to get Dad to leave that with me and have a look at that.
Right, well, time's marching on, so we've got two left, and two interesting stories that I think the fans may be interested in. The first one, as I said, when Peter Cushing got his start, he did several films in just a 3-year period. He did Dracula in 58, and then of course The Mummy in 59, which really put him on the map. And then before that, he'd done a black and white production in 1957, The Abominable Snowman.
Old school classic. Is that
an old school classic?
Is that Criterion?
Criterion. No, it's Anchor Bay. This is the Anchor Bay. This was the original American release in the United States. It was a series that they did in 1986 when DVD was king, called the Hammer Collection. So I've kept this one because it's the original DVD, And fans of my vintage, of course, you know Peter Cushing, will know there's an American character here, Forrest Tucker, and Forrest Tucker, who's now remembered for playing the sergeant in F Troop, which was an American TV series, comedy western thing, which ran here on the ABC in the 1960s. But this is from 1957. Yeah, the abominable snowman. Peter Cushing, Forrest Tucker. And what's interesting about this one was that I saw it on television when I was 10.
Wow.
And, God help me, this is like 1963.
What sort of effect did it have on you? Did it scare the shit out of you?
Yeah, I was absolutely terrified. And there were two scenes, I hadn't seen it since, and there were just two scenes that I remembered from it, which they were the only two scenes I remembered. I got this and I played it back and I thought, oh my God, no wonder I didn't sleep for a week after I saw this film. I'm getting into bed and my father was saying, when are you going to stop watching those scary movies, Chris? Fucking Backwards Christopher. That's what they used to call me, Backwards Christopher. And here I am, 8,000 years later, and look at me. I almost look like, Boris Karloff's aging fat brother. Right?
So we can see, guys, that the horror has
runs in the
passed
family.
on. Yeah, it runs in the family.
Look at
It's
this
been
big scab.
passed
There
on
you are.
from generation to generation.
That's right. So, yeah, the abominable snowman. I'll put my glasses back on. The abominable snowman of the Himalayas, right? 1957 in black and white. It's a widescreen, a terrific thing.
Fantastic.
And I've got the Blu-ray coming, because it's so important. Because I want to see if there's the picture quality in here is quite good, but I'm interested to see how much better it is on the Blu-ray.
Any special features there, Dad?
No,
I don't think there's much on there.
No, not on this disc. There's an audio commentary with the original director Val Guest and the original writer Nigel Neal, because there wasn't actually an earlier production of this done for television for that, which they apparently did on a shoestring budget. But when they went to do the film, of course, they had the backing of what was then a major studio, and they had the money that they could spend on it. And it's very effective too in black and white.
Awesome.
And I remember getting into bed that night after the film had finished, and I'm shaking like this. And I'm yelling out to my father, who's already in bed, Dad, the monsters are coming to get me. And I hear my father yell out, oh God, I hope they bite your balls off. Gee, thanks for your kindness, love, caring and support, Dad.
You know, it reminds me, Dad, of the 80s, back in the VHS era. And, Mum and Andrew and that would always be going out and like to Focus Video when Focus Video still existed.
That's right, Focus Video in the 80s.
Videos.
Oh my God, the tapes.
And I'd get up in the morning and I'd watch those movies and Mum would say, well, don't blame me if you scare the shit out of yourself and have nightmares, but I'd still watch them anyway because I've always been a horror fan. Now, what have you got next?
Well, we're going to finish up now, and we've saved the best or the worst till last, depending on your views and how you feel about low-budget filmmaking. And that's one of the early Vincent Price classics called
it's a classic.
The Tingler.
It's an absolute classic. Don't know that I've seen it.
The Tingler, oh
Don't
my
know
God.
that I've seen it.
And get this, Vincent Price stars in as an obsessed doctor who discovers a parasitic creature which grows on the spinal cords of terrified people. Are you in the mood? Right? If they scream, the Tingler can be destroyed. If they don't, it will sever the spinal column and kill them. He successfully isolates and removes the Tingler from a deaf mute who has been scared to death by her devious husband. However, once captured, the Tingler escapes and runs amok in a crowded movie theatre. Terror is loose, but can it be stopped? Can you believe this? The fucking Tingler!
So, of course, if anyone doesn't know, Vincent Price is remembered for his classic dialogue in Thriller. Michael Jackson.
Thriller, yeah.
And Vincent Price had a huge career in horror.
Yeah.
Probably more B-grade horror, wasn't it, Dad?
Yeah, mostly B films. Some of them were quite
And he did a lot of, can't think of the author.
Mr. Brownout, Edgar Allan Poe, he did the Pit and the Pendulum.
Edgar Allan Poe. He did a lot of Edgar Allan Poe stuff.
The Tomb of Ligeia. Oh, cheer you right up, it's nice.
Yeah.
But talking about the Tingler, and this again was a black and white widescreen, excellent restoration, and fantastic. Looks like it was just shot, but in black and white.
What label, Dad?
What label? It's on the
Columbia?
It's Columbia, yeah. Because Columbia, they had the Three Stooges, and they had a low budget, very successful low budget black and white B picture division in the through the 50s, going right through the early 60s.
Yeah.
And of course, Vincent Price, of course, is legendary now for doing all these low budget films. He appeared in some good stuff, but of course, the Ten Commandments. Of course, he has quite an interesting part in that.
He did.
Yeah.
Fantastic film.
He played. He played. Fucking brain, it's gone. Anyway, he was in Leave Her to Heaven with. Anyway, don't worry about it. Leave Her to Heaven. It's a line from Shakespeare. But the Tingler, and get this. So it featured a special effect called Percepto. And Percepto was people went into the cinema, and what the movie company had done has in every other line of seats, not all of them, but every other row, they'd installed these little vibrators, these remote electrically actuated vibrators, right, that were controlled by the projectionist up in the box when he was running the film. And he'd watch the film and sync it, and every time the Tingler was on the screen, he'd press this electric button, and all these people would get this the fucking vibration under the seat, scared the shit out of them. Fucking state-of-the-art, top shit,
I
mate.
never knew that.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
That's Percepto. It was
That's
part of the
awesome.
whole B film movie gimmick in the 50s and in the late 50s, up there with like 3D. So Percepto, that was apparently the only time I know of it ever being used. So people would, but it caused such a stir. This great classic icon, depending on your point of view, or depending on someone else's point of view, one of the most appalling B-grade pieces of shit ever to have had the misfortune of surviving into the present era.
But they could say that about a lot of Vincent Price movies.
Because Price's genius was that he could take something, no matter what the budget or the situation, and take the most idiotic, ridiculous lines of dialogue and make them seem completely believable and plausible and credible. Like when he was playing the Dr. Scientist in the Tingler. And you listen to him speak until afterwards you scratch your head and you're thinking, well, that was just beyond stupid. But when Price is on the screen and you hear him speaking, that's a whole different story.
He's iconic. He's iconic. He's unique.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
So,
did I ask Dad any special features on it?
Yes. There's a new historian's auto commentary. There's a short interview with one of the stars of the film, who's still creeping around, but they're from 20 years ago. She was talking about how I survived the Tingler, right? And then there's Unleashing a Percepto. That was an interview with the publicist. He was talking about setting up this gimmick with the vibrators under the seats, And then there's another short about the well-known William Castle. He was the director of many of these films from that period, and a number of other features and some lobby recordings, theatrical trailer, and a still gallery. So it's a good package if you want the completely restored, uncut Tingler. Now, just to finish off, because time's marching on, the first time I saw the Tingler, Sherman set the Wayback Machine to the Jurassic era. This is when the dinosaurs were still running around. Take us back to the summer of 1965, right? And it's a Saturday night at 9:30, Deadly Earnest is on, and they're going to be running the Tingler. However, and I thought, man, I've got to see this. By this time I'm 12. I wasn't just a toddler anymore. My parents say, no, we're going to the drive-in. Oh, God, I just lost it, mate.
Such a fan.
When I just lost it. We go up, and I remember the name of the film. It was some pommy piece of dog shit starring Hayley Mills, and it was called A Smashing Time. Oh, my God. So, because I'm 12, I'm sitting in the back of the fucking bitch car that we have. I'm losing it. And I'm looking at the time thinking, God, how much time have I got left before Deadly Earnest starts, right? Get this right. Because my brother's wife says, because she's been with us since 1967, Chris, when you were a child, you were a brat. She's right, it's true. I think back now, I'm an old man and I shrink thinking about what a bastard I was. It's all true, I was a brat. So I'm in the back of my parents' car, chucking this fruity. This is a boiling hot night, fucking summer 1965. And Dad, my father gets so upset, he finally says, fine, get out the car and walk home then. And he said, oh God, it's 10 to 9, I've got just enough time to walk home, break into the fucking house and watch the Tingler. So bugger me, this is at the old Highline Drive-In. This is how long ago this is. So I get out the car, and I remember that walk home all the way down Dawes Road. I didn't see a single car of traffic because it was like 9 o'clock at night. Right. So 9 o'clock at night in Adelaide in 1965 was like the dark ages. So cut a long story short, I get home, and where we had a rumpus room out the back, which we just called the back room, a room that Dad had added on years before, and the television was out there. I thought, oh, well, I've got here now. God, this is 20 past. I only got 10 minutes to break in. Fortunately, we didn't have security in those days that people have now, and I managed to get in through one of the back room windows. And I just sat down and just got the TV on as the Tingler was starting. Oh, God, biggest mistake I ever made. By the time that film finished, because in those days, because of the long days, the drive-in, they couldn't start till it was dark, about 9 o'clock. So deadly honest to get home, it starts at 9:30, and by the time you watch it through with all the ads, it's like nearly midnight. And about 12:30, I think it was 12:30, quarter to 1, there was a sliding door where the back room was. I hear this door slide open, and it was just Mum opening the door, and I hear this, and I just go, ah! And I just burst into fucking tears. The film's just finished, fucking 12-year-old cockhead, right? And my father's there going, Dad didn't stop laughing for a month, right? And I go, I gotta get into bed like this. I gotta fucking Jesus Christ. And you know, after that night with the fucking Tingler, I never watched Deadly Earnest again. And my father ragged me on it like a bastard, saying, "Oh, Chris, it's take the night the Tingler's."
So was that like a double feature, Dad? The two films.
Yeah, they had. There was a Smashing Time, and there was something else on. Yeah, the drive-ins were always a double feature. So if you went in the summertime, you couldn't start the first film until it was dark because there was still too much sunlight on the screen because the sun hadn't set. So to start about 9 or quarter past 9, you'd have your film. It was an hour and a half, 2 hours. Then you'd have the intermission where there'd be the massive stampede to the Bumburger stand, right? And then you'd have the second film that might go 2 hours. So a lot of the times with a summer session, you mightn't get home till 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. But oh boy, did I learn my lesson with the Tingler.
Now, did you want to share that book?
Yes. So that was the start. I never watched another horror movie until I was in my teens because I never got over, the combination of my mother saying, "I told you not to have it, you broke it," and I broke a window to get in. Anyway,
I went through the same thing with my mother.
Oh, jeez.
You want to watch horror movies?
Yeah.
Be prepared to have nightmares. Now you want to share that book?
Yes. Frank, we're talking about Frankenstein. What is Frankenstein really? What is it? Who is it? Well, Frankenstein is actually this. It's a novel, a Gothic novel, written by an 18-year-old girl in 1818. That was Mary Shelley. So 203 years ago.
Incredible it's been that long.
Yeah.
Wow. 203 years.
203 years, 1818 she wrote it. She was 18 years old. And I've always said about books like this, these Gothic novels, which Frankenstein is now considered by literary people to be the first actual true science fiction film. These things and things like Dracula, they're not really filmable because the ideas and the way it's written simply don't translate well into another medium. And just speaking of this quickly before we wrap it up, talking about Frankenstein, there's been 2 editions. There was a 2-part miniseries shot in Europe in 2004, which featured some big names, William Hurt and Donald Sutherland. And then of all people, Luke Goss was the creature.
Oh my God.
Luke Goss was the creature. And it was really good. And it's the one that since then, even though it wasn't a movie, it was a 2-part miniseries, it adhered quite closely to the novel, as closely as you could, right? And then there was one, a much shorter one, a 90-minute film done in 2015, featuring Danny Huston and Carrie-Anne Moss as this husband and wife team that bring this guy, create this guy with the normal disastrous consequences. So that was a very nice update of something that was written in 1818. But the one to watch if you're still looking for the period thing is the 2004 one. That is available on Amazon and other outlets. You can still get it.
We talking about the Robert De Niro?
No, that was
another one again.
Robert De Niro.
I did like that with Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah. That was actually a disaster, but that's a whole other story.
Oh, it was a disaster, but I did actually like the film. So.
And just quickly, I'm gonna just read a couple of paragraphs to you from Frankenstein. This is the beginning of chapter 5. Just bear with me; it'll only take a moment, just to give you an idea of how this kind of creation, this kind of writing, just
awesome.
just does not translate into another medium. And just to set the scene, this is the night where Frankenstein, with the storms happening, and he brings this creature to life. And I'll just say here, it says, "It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 in the morning. The rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out, when, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. How can I describe my emotions at this catastrophe, or how delineate the wretch whom with such infinite pains and care I had endeavoured to form? His limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful! Great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black and flowing, his teeth of pearly whiteness. Wow. But these luxuriances only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes, that seemed almost of the same colour as the dun-white sockets in which they were set, his shriveled complexion and straight black lips." And that's just something you just can't reproduce in a film. That kind of writing.
You can't. That's incredible writing.
That's the action.
Listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up.
Now.
We're going to wrap it up. It's been fantastic to have Dad here again. I've spent way too much money over the last few weeks, so it's been great to have Dad here and share his stuff with you today, horror fans. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.